One way that a journalist can make something look good, especially on the Vine, is, bringing in visual aids. Not even adverse to a bit of interpretive dance, but I think if they want to bring in visual aids, especially when it comes to, say, TV stories or movie stories or even music stories, bring in YouTube clips, bring in music, ideas. Another example, especially with an upcoming section that we're launching, which will be our book club, our monthly book club, rather than giving a book review in 500 words, we're just going to tell the story of the book using a mood board of photos.
It's different in print to online. I mean, we often get the biggest responses in print to stories about people doing good, people who inspire our readers, who take on big causes that make the readers think they're fantastic people. So we'll often get 20 or 30 or 40 letters in response to a real feel-good story like that. Online we find that often the highest rating stories are crime stories. We won't tend to get letters to the editor of the print edition of Good Weekend in response to crime stories, but they rate very well online. So we certainly see that there's there is a difference in the readership. The online readership's younger. So, for example, one of the highest rating stories online a couple of weeks ago was a cover story from Good Weekend on male sex workers. It did very well online. There was video to complement it, but most of the letters to the editor were inveighing against the loose morality of the Good Weekend editor in giving all of this precious magazine space over to these immoral male prostitutes as they saw them. So there are definitely different readers who are consuming stories online and in print.
In the past, where you would have to have, an excuse to write a story, and it would have to be a good, strong news story, we're finding that with the web and with Facebook, something that may not make it into the actual paper is still appropriate to put on the web as a snippet of information on Twitter. Here's an event that you can go to with a quick link on Facebook, and that gets information out there to people without us having to write a full story. It's just about making sure people know what's going on without us having to dress it all up and find a picture and go out and do a 20-minute interview.
With a print product, you open the pages up and a double page spread is, here are the beautiful pictures, here's a lovely design. You can sell a story through a whole package of things: graphics, beautiful pictures, lovely typesetting of the page, an interesting idea about how those things are brought together. Certainly in digital that's quite challenging because of the way it is structured, is that most people come through to our journalism through the top of the homepage. And the way we sell stories through that is often through just the headline. And that headline has to work pretty hard to sell that story relative to how we sell a story in print. So what that means is that the story has to have a very strong hook to get a person in, and you've got to be able to sell it very strongly through a headline. And when that person gets to that page, they've got to be hooked straight away.
When I started as a journalist, there were newspaper companies, there were television stations, there were radio networks, and there was no crossover at all. But if you think now of the Fairfax papers, they have websites with audio and video on them. If you think of the ABC, which used to be purely a broadcaster, it now has web pages with a lot of text on it. So it's called convergence, and all the media is starting to blend together, and that's why I underlined the need to have multi-skilling if you want to be a practitioner in journalism.
And more we're seeing how gaming consoles and interactive TV will play a bigger part in our lives. A gaming console is no longer just a gaming console, it's now a home entertainment system. You can watch movies on there, and very soon you can see interactive applications on there and social elements. So we have to think about, how will people digest news soon? How will people digest when they're playing in these arenas? How are we going to hit them with headlines, with breaking news? How can we deliver them news with their areas of interest, how can we deliver things to them that we're not taking them out of their environment, but we're not missing them? And because these are going to be our audiences that at the moment our traditional channels aren't reaching. Interactive TV is another fascinating area. So we can see Interactive TV has launched with its on-demand TVs, on-demand films. You can buy films online. You no longer have to go to a website to do this. You no longer have to go to the good old days of Blockbusters on your high street. What does that mean for news? Maybe people won't be going to news websites in the future. Maybe they can purchase your daily news by pressing a button on your TV screen. So what does that mean? How are we going to be constructing our stories? Is that going to be a package of copy, imagery and video content?
Well, I mean, I've only been in journalism for 6 years, but since I started to now, there's a lot more, not pressure, but there's a lot more interest in making the story different to what everyone else is writing. And so a tip that someone gave me when I started this job only a month ago was, whatever you do, try and be different to what the other people are writing. Try and really draw out elements that perhaps other people would gloss over and give that something different, so you're not feeling like you're reading the run-of-the-mill kind of story. You're reading something that, that transports you.
Years ago, the fact was king. A single fact, and we were the lords of our realm because we owned all the facts. So let's just take the example of a 16-year-old kid who has to do a project for school. He has to know the name of the US president's dog. He has to know the closing price of a stock on the Tokyo share market and maybe the maximum temperature in Uganda this week, right? 3 various different facts. He's got to go and pull them all together. A generation ago, he would go to the school library or the local library, ask the librarian to help him. They might have to fax off or, God forbid, send a telegram somewhere, get all that information back in, consult encyclopedias. That would take days. Now it's 3 clicks or 3 swipes. Any kid can do that. You can find out anything. So suddenly, facts have become so commonplace, they don't have any value anymore. But what's more valuable is context around those facts, explaining to people why. So in journalism, it's always been who, what, where, when. That's your first paragraph or your nub. Now it's why.
As life and style journalists, we sort of try to have our finger on the pulse internet-wise, and it's just a matter of getting out there, I say that, but searching the web and finding what we think will interest our audience and then making it, as exciting as possible within a story file.
The key thing we did was took ownership of our own destiny. So whilst we couldn't necessarily generate the traditional news stories that were coming out of the newspaper newsrooms, we were able to develop ways of telling stories that we could do on our own. We did top 10 lists, we did stories via picture galleries. We kind of, as much as anything, as well as taking control of our own destiny around content, we also shaped our own tone and flair, really.